Hey everybody. So I have a live. I have a word. My apologies. I have a word. I'm doing the live, but I have a word. And this past week, the Lord has been dealing with me very heavy. He took me back to a movie that He uses for me very often, showing me something different about this movie. But even as I prepared to do this live this morning, one of the things that the Lord was showing me is how when we are going through things, we fail
As
to
I
see
prepared to do this
um,
live.
we fail to see um, that we may be the problem sometimes. We fail to see that we may be the problem. And if I'm being honest, a lot of people don't teach us to look at ourselves because of all of the years that I have been in church, I've never had a person teach me to look at myself. Now, they teach us to understand blessings. They teach us to understand that we need the tithes, but they never really explain to us the importance of it. They teach us all of the things that are not that I'm not saying that they're not important. They are important, but there are other things that we need to learn that they don't teach. And what I've learned on this journey is a lot of the things that we aren't taught is because we have a lot of leaders that aren't willing to look at themselves. They do exactly what we do: judge other people, look at other people, find fault in other people, instead of turning the mirror around and looking at themselves to understand them. Because if they understand them, that will better help them to understand the people that they are shepherding. I learned through this journey that the Lord was sending me people that were like me. I was rebellious. I didn't want to do what the Lord asked me to do. Every time He wanted me to do something, I ran from it. I made excuses. I was afraid to fail. I was afraid to be rejected. I was afraid for people to walk away from me. I was afraid to commit in a actual relationship. There were so many things about Sharika that Sharika could not see because I was so busy focusing on everybody else. And the Lord allowed me to do that for a very long time. But what I understand is that He was teaching me something in the process as I was going through this journey. He was teaching me how to shift my focus. And because I wasn't catching it right away, I didn't catch on right away. But because I wasn't catching it right away, He was very gentle with me. He was a loving God. He never walked away from me, even at times that I thought that He walked away from me. He didn't. He stayed with me and He walked me through this journey from beginning to end. There were things that He was saying to me at the time that I didn't understand. When I say I got revelation to things in this past week, based off of what He had shown me at the beginning of my journey, I got revelation to a lot of things because what we don't understand, what some of us, I'm not going to say what everybody, because some people get it. I was one that didn't get it right away, but I didn't give up. What we don't understand is this: that when the Lord speaks something, it doesn't always mean what we think it means. We have such a literal mind that when we hear something, we think that it automatically means that thing, right? But when we read the Bible is it speaks of in parables, and it have a lot of colloquialisms. So we have to get an understanding for what those things mean. Now, if He speaks in the Bible by parables and He's telling us that the Bible is our roadmap to find Him, right? Then that means that we need to understand parables even when He's speaking it to us, because this is how the Lord operates. This is how He communicates through the Bible. So there were a lot of things that he was saying to me, and I was like taking it literal. I didn't realize that I had such a literal mind. And I always joke with my bestie about being so literal. But then I realized we best friends because you literal, I'm literal. We were literal in different ways. And so now the Lord is like opening up this box, this revelation. Is like another part of an ending for me that says, okay, you've come this far. Now let me explain this to you. So this is my seventh, this is my seventh series, 7-part series of Equipped for the Call. And this one is called From Selfish to Selfless, Becoming an Overcomer. And when I speak, understand, I'm speaking about Sharika. Now, if the shoe fit, wear it, because I'm not gonna apologize to anybody. If you are offended by what I'm saying about me, it just means that the Lord is convicting you in your own way, because He convicts me. I'm not afraid to face the conviction now. I used to be, because I understand that the conviction helps me to grow. Right. So from selfish to selfless. Now, who was selfish? I was selfish. I was selfish, but I did not realize how selfish I was. I just didn't, because I always thought that I was a sweet person. I always thought that, I was a good friend, a good communicator, and all of these things. But no matter how good you are, you still have some things that you can stand to work on. And if anybody tells you anything different, they are lying to you. The best person still has things that they can work on within themselves. And this is what the journey is all about. So, to become an overcomer, we have to get an understanding for what an overcomer is. Why did I have to become an overcomer? Because I was afraid to fail. I was afraid to fall. I was afraid to lose anything. I was afraid to be rejected. I was afraid that people wouldn't love me. I was afraid that if I got in a relationship that they would walk away from me. I was afraid of losing in general. And so what did I do? I tried to be somebody I was not. And I noticed that with a lot of people. I was not my authentic self. Every relationship that I got in, I changed to fit in that relationship in some way, form, or fashion. Now, my personality was always the same. I always loved to have fun. But what I did in each relationship is I became the giver so much that it was breaking me to make other people happy. And I stayed sad. Even though I was in these friendships, even though I was in these relationships, even though I was at these jobs, I was so sad on the inside. Y'all, I was so sad on the inside. I did not understand. How can I have these friendships? How can I have these people surrounding me and not still be happy? It was because the love was not genuine. Why was the love not genuine? Because I was not genuine to myself. All of the things that I thought would make me happy did not make me happy. I thought that having the money would make me happy. It didn't make me happy. I thought that having the car would make me happy. It did not make me happy. I was still in relationships that did not serve me a purpose in my life. And so what I had to learn to do was like Nemo, finding Nemo, I had to find Sharika. I had to find Sharika. I had to understand who Sharika was. I had to understand what Sharika loved. I had to understand the type of people Sharika wanted to be around. I really had to self-search and find me. But I could not find me because I did not know my identity. I had to find the roadmap to understand where my identity lied, and that was in the Lord. So I had to find the Lord to find myself. And a lot of people may not understand what I'm talking about when I say that. Um, I had to find myself And I had to find the Lord to find me, because He's the one who made me. He's the one that chose um, who He wanted me to be. I just didn't understand it. So for a lot of my life, I went around being who everybody else wanted me to be instead of being who the Lord wanted me to be. And I gave in more than I stood up for myself. I gave in more than I stood up for myself. So the Lord said, I have to teach you something different. In my teaching, Him teaching me something different, He taught me to be stronger. He taught me to be wiser. He taught me to be resilient. He taught me to be a good leader. He taught me how to see people the way that He see people. He taught me how to love. He taught me how to be graceful. He taught me how to forgive. He taught me how to communicate. I would not have known those things if I had not came into connection with the Lord, right? Y'all know, if you've been on these lives before, I get emotional. Whenever I talk about the Lord, this thing is real for me. I get very emotional. It's the Holy Spirit. It's all right. Just let y'all know. So I had to find those parts of me, because those were the important parts of me. It wasn't about being something to somebody else. It was about being the person I needed to be for the Lord. It was about Him teaching me everything I needed to know. So I can remember on this journey, that He said to me that I was going to become a wife outside of marriage. I was going to become a wife outside of marriage. And so when I heard this, I'm like, oh, He's going to teach me how to be somebody's wife. Let me tell y'all, for the first time today, not today, this week, I understood a part of what the Lord was saying. Now, was He teaching me to be a wife? Yes, He was definitely teaching me to be a wife for somebody. But in order to be a wife for somebody, He had to teach me to be the bride of Christ before I can be somebody's wife. I didn't understand that at the time. I know what I heard, right? And I ran with what I heard, because, again, my mind was so literal that it did not understand exactly what the Lord was saying. It's not that I got it wrong, it's that I understood it wrong, right? So this is where I am right now. So in becoming an overcomer, you have to first understand what an overcomer is. When He explained to me what an overcomer is, He took me to Romans 8:37, which reads, "No, in all these things, we are more than conquerors through Him who loved us." We are more than conquerors, meaning we can conquer anything that comes up against us. But we have to have a willingness to do it. At the time, I didn't have a willingness to do it. I didn't, because I didn't understand what having a willingness to conquer something means. I didn't understand what that meant in that moment. And so He took me on a journey to teach me and help me to understand these things. So what is an overcomer? An overcomer is who a person who overcomes something, who succeeds in dealing either or gaining control of some problem or difficulty. That's what an overcomer is. Now, biblically, an overcomer is a person who triumphs over challenges and adversities through Jesus Christ in their faith, right? So that's what He was trying to get me. I thought I was an overcomer. I thought I conquered things in my life, but I wasn't doing it the way the Lord wanted me to do it. I was doing it in my own strength. I was doing it based off of what I understood it to be. And my conquering actually was avoiding. If I felt defeated, I would avoid the situation. And when I avoided the situation, I thought I was winning. I thought I was winning. And so I noticed a lot of people do that. We think that when we block somebody, when we cut somebody off, when we stop talking to somebody, we automatically won the situation. But winning the situation is not avoiding it. Winning the situation is being able to go through it, with the right posture, with the right communication, with the right attitude, and being able to handle a situation as an adult. Children run, immature teens run, but adults learn how to properly handle situations the right way. I had to learn how to handle the situations the right way because I was a runner. I was definitely a runner. So the Lord started building me all over again, but it took for me to die to get there. So as I began to study for this live, right, I kept hearing him say that there was an intentional grounding. Now I didn't know what intentional grounding meant. I had to study that. I had to get an understanding for it. And we know that with this live, he's teaching me by way of a football game, a football game. So I understood this to be because this is again number 7. 7 is completion. So this for most people that watch football would probably be the Super Bowl for me. This is what it is. This is number 7. This is completion for me of being equipped for the call. And so intentional grounding meant that people you in the game, you're losing yardage. You're not going anywhere. You're not making any moves that count. And so I had to understand all of that. But in the process, he wanted me to understand why these things would happen. So if you understand what I was saying, you understand that I said from selfish to selfless. So what does it mean to be selfish? He took me to Philippians 2:3, and it says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself. So he was showing me that there was a time in my life that I didn't think about anybody else. I was worried about myself, but me worrying about myself, I was trying to put myself out there to be liked. I didn't care, about anything else, and continuously trying to put myself out there to be liked by people, to people please and all that stuff. That's where I was getting hurt at. So a selfish person is a person lacking consideration for others, concerned chiefly with one's own personal profit or pleasure. That's what I was doing. I kept trying to please people, and thinking that was the right thing to do, not taking into consideration what my actions might have been doing to those people at that time. Why do I say that? Because when we continuously put ourselves in God's place, or try and do something that God doesn't want us to do, those bring on emotions. Because when you wake up, guess what has to happen? Now you have to walk away from those people, and the very thing that you didn't want done to you is now you're doing it to somebody else. You have to abandon them, or you might end up rejecting them in the moment, because you're waking up and now you see, oh dang, I'm being dumb, and now you want to walk away. But here's the funny part about it: when we see that people may be using us, we don't look at our part. We don't look at our part. We look at what they've done to us, but we don't look at how we put ourselves in that situation to be done. There's always two parts of a story. What part did you play? That's what the Lord kept asking me. What part did you play in this? So I had to start looking at the parts that I played in my story. And that is what kind of started to ease the pain. Because if I had not put myself in position to be hurt, I might not have been hurt. If I had not put myself in position to be somebody's savior, then they might not have leaned on me as much. I was putting myself in these situations and then getting upset because the people were doing me wrong, or because what we do is we expect for people to be us in situations, but they're not. So when we do a thing and they treat us the way, we expect for them to treat us the way that we treat people. But what we have to understand is this: everybody's not raised in your household. Everybody's not raised in the same household. Everybody's not raised by the same type of parents. There are different types of households, different types of parents, and everybody does their kids different. You have some parents that won't let their kids come outside, won't let them listen to any type of secular music. You have some parents that don't watch their children and don't care what their children do. And then you have the other parents that are in between and do both. So we can't expect for people to be us, because they're not going to think like us, because they weren't raised under the roof that we were raised under. We all have a different way of thinking. Our families and how we were raised is what teaches us how to think, how to speak, how to act. And so I was getting mad because I'm like, I do this for so and so, and I expect for them to be here, and I expect for them to do this, and I would never do this to somebody's child. But I was getting upset because I wanted them to do what I did. And so I had to realize, oh, they're not like me. Okay. So I had to take a step back. So the Lord started showing me that. Another definition of selfish is being an active, and I love this definition. It was confusing, but the Lord broke it down for me. Being an active, replicating, a repetitive sequence of a nucleic acid that serves no function. It's a piece of DNA that keeps making copies of itself in the same pattern without understanding its proper function. It is useless. So when the Lord started to break that down for me, I was like, Lord, okay, what does that mean? And what he broke down to me was, he said, imagine a copy machine, and you write a sentence on the copy machine, right? And you put put the paper in the copy machine, and the copy machine, well, you write out stuff, but the copy machine only get the first line, and the copy machine keep making that same copy over and over and over and over again because it jammed somewhere. It jammed somewhere. And all of those papers with that one line, it didn't get the rest of what you needed. With that one line on it, serves no purpose because it doesn't have all the information. It doesn't have everything that it needs to be a whole document because it jammed. That's how we are. Somewhere in life, we jammed and we didn't get the full capacity or the what we needed fully to be who God called us to be. What do I mean by we jammed somewhere? Somewhere along the line, we got hurt and stopped working properly. We stopped doing what was needed. We started saying, I ain't gonna let that happen no more. I ain't gonna let you do this no more. And so we stopped functioning the way that we were required to function. And so this is like this copy machine. And then from there, when we had children, when we encountered people, we were the same broken, hurt people doing the very same thing and not growing. We decided, whatever hurt me, I'm not doing that anymore. And we did not know how to get past it. When you think about a copy machine, you have to go in that machine. If you ever worked in the doctor's office or in the office, period, when a copy machine jams, you can't just go under that one thing and pull the copy machine, copy the paper out. There are so many places that it can get stuck. There are so many places that it can get stuck. And so what you have to do is you have to break that copy machine down, and you have to go in every compartment and see what's holding it up right here. And everywhere you find a paper jam, you have to pull it out and make sure it's working properly. Y'all, that is what the Lord does for us. I know that's a crazy way to think about it, but this is how the Lord speaks to me. This is how he helps me to understand. He takes me back to things that he's know that I've done, right? Fixing the copy machine was a thing for me working in a doctor's office. Why? Because the copy machine have to keep moving in order for us to print the things that the people need in order for them to do what is needed by the doctor or whatever to heal. I need y'all to hear this with a spiritual ear. And so he knew that I would understand that. So he showed me how if it was a industrial copy machine, I would have had to go in every part of that machine to find the broken parts of it in order to make it operate right. And not only once I found the broken parts, right? I had to probably reset the machine, unplug it, and plug it back in to reset the machine so that it can begin to make what it needed to make. This is what a spiritual journey looks like. There are some broken parts in you. And so the Lord is going piece by piece. And he is going and he's finding all of the brokenness and he's fixing it. But what happens is, in him fixing our brokenness, it begins to hurt. It begins to become painful. We don't like the way it feels, because if you think about it, with a copy machine, we just can't go in there and think we just gonna find the paper and then we just gonna it's gonna come out easy. No, some of that paper we have to snatch out. Why? Because it got stuck up under a roller. There's something that's holding it down and causing it to not move. That's the same thing that happens with us. We have strongholds. There's something that is holding us down and causing us to not move, causing us to not heal and do what the Lord has told us to do. So on my journey, he started to send me people that was like me. Why? Because when you begin to teach people that are like you begin to see what the problem may be in you. But if you never understand that the people that you are shepherding are people that suffer from the very things that you suffer from, you'll never look back at you. You always gonna want to look at those people and think that, oh, it's a problem. But this person's stuck here. This person rebellious. This person don't listen. This person can't do what I tell them to do. It's because the Lord is showing you through other people. So he said, I need you to not be selfish. I need you to be selfless. Why? Because a selfless person can move the way that I need for them to move. They can hear me. They aren't trying to please people. Their ears are open. Their eyes are open. Everything is open. And they're going to love people the way that I need for them to love people. They're going to show grace. They're going to show humility. They're going to communicate properly. They're going to do all of the things that I need for them to do in order for them to help the people that I've called them to help. But we got to go through a process. We got to go through a process. So what does it mean to be selfless? Concerned more with the needs of others, the wishes of others, instead of your own selfishness. It means to be unselfish. It means to think about others more than you think about yourself. Now, the Lord isn't saying forget about you. That's not what he's saying. Because whenever we're on a journey, the whole goal is to find you first. Because you can't help anybody else find themselves until you know the path. The only way you find the path is to take it yourself. And when you take it, then you can go back and get other people. So like on the movie with Harriet, she was a slave. She was in bondage and she escaped and she found the path for herself. And then she went and got herself together. And once she got herself together, then she said, now that I'm strong enough, I'm going to go back and I'm going to save some people. She used that same path every single time. Why? Because that path worked for her. And because the enemy didn't know that path, they didn't know how she got away. And even though they kept trying to find out ways of how she got out, which way she was going, they couldn't find her. Why? Because when she became free, her ears and her eyes were open to see the Lord. So every time the enemy tried to come and try to block her or catch her, she stopped and she sat with the Lord to see which way to go. She was being led and she wasn't just going on her own. So that's what the Lord had to teach me on this journey. Now, when I tell you again, as leaders, we have to look at ourselves. We have to look at who we're shepherding because they are an extension of us, some way or another. I had to understand, just like I preached that the Lord will turn you over to a reprobate mind, I got turned over to a reprobate mind. So, a reprobate mind, let's talk about that. The scripture is Romans 128. I mean 128. Even as they refused to have God in their knowledge, God gave them up to a reprobate mind to do those things which were not fitting. So when you're turned over to a reprobate mind, the Lord may be telling you to surrender something. He may be telling you to surrender a habit. He may be telling you to surrender a person. He may be telling you to surrender a lifestyle. He may, whatever he's telling you to surrender, right? We think that we don't hear God. A lot of us hear God and just don't realize we hear God. When I really started hearing God, I can go back and I can look over my life at times that he was speaking to me because of the things that he was saying. And I had thoughts in my mind, but I didn't realize it was the Lord. So a lot of people ask me, how do you know when the Lord is speaking to you? Because it sounds like an inner voice. It's just like you're talking to yourself is what it feels like. If I can explain it for people to understand it. It sounds like this inner voice that is telling you to do something. Now, there's two. You can hear the devil, you can hear the Lord. You have to know who is who. The only way you can know that is by building a relationship. If you building a relationship with the enemy, with Satan, you're gonna always hear him telling you to do all the wrong stuff. If you're building a relationship with the Lord, you'll hear the Lord telling you the right things to do. Now, I knew that it wasn't me, right? Because some of the things that the Lord was telling me to do weren't things that I would ever think of, things that I ever knew, nothing. I didn't know. And so there was a time that I used to come live and I would be like, I know this is the Lord because Sharika don't think like this. I know how I think because I know me. But I didn't know the Lord like that. So he was introducing me to new things that I had never imagined, that I never would have thought that would think about, even songs, even movies. He was introducing me to these things and I know it wasn't me. And one thing about the Lord is he's not going to tell you to do anything bad. He's not going to tell you to hurt anybody. He's not going to tell you to backstab anybody. He's not going to tell you to talk about anybody in a bad way because he wants to save everybody, even though some people don't want to be saved. Satan is the one that's going to do that. Satan is the one that is going to cause you to do all of these bad things. And then you be looking around thinking, oh, well, God told me to do it. No, no, no. And so in order for you to really know whose voice you're hearing, it matters who you give your time to. If you're giving more of your time to the world than you are to the Lord, then of course you're going to hear Satan over the Lord. But if you're giving your time to the Lord, if you're sitting with the Lord, communicating with the Lord, reading the Bible, getting an understanding in worship, praying, all of the things that are required to have a relationship with God, then you'll understand who you're talking to. It's like being in relationship with a friend, your best friend or your sister, your brother, your mother. I don't care where I am, right? If my mama is in the room with 10 mamas and my mama speak, I know that's my mama voice. If my sister is in a room with 50 million people and my sister speak, I know that's my sister's voice. Why? Because I have sat and I've had relationship with them and I understand their voice. I know how they sound. I know their mannerisms. It don't take a lot for me to understand it now. Yeah, when we get in the room, we might hear somebody say mom, everybody say mom. You might get confused a little bit. But when your mama start to talk, you know it's your mother. That's the same thing that happens with the Lord. When you are sitting with the Lord and you are really building a relationship with the Lord, you're going to know when the Lord is speaking to you. But if you never take the time to build a relationship, then you'll never know. And then you end up confused trying to figure out who is this, the enemy or the Lord. It requires you to sit with God to build that relationship with the Lord. So as I began to build a relationship, he was like, I need you to lose this. I need you to lose the man. I need you to lose the job. I need you to lose the car. He had me let that stuff go. Sacrifice that for this journey. Kept telling me to sacrifice. But guess what? I didn't want to sacrifice anything. Why? Because I was already struggling with rejection. I was already struggling with abandonment issues, and I didn't even realize it. Because we have problems that are inside that we've pushed so far back that we don't want to deal with it. So I was already struggling with all these things and didn't realize it. So when he started telling me to let more stuff go, I was like, God, no, I can't do that. So I refused to let it go. I refused. And when I say I refused, y'all, I did. I refused. Why? Because I did not understand the repercussions of my actions. Why didn't I understand that? Because I did not have a relationship with the Lord. And because I was not reading the Bible to understand that there are consequences when the Lord is telling you to do something and you are not doing it. There's consequences for that. So what began to happen? He turned me over to a reprobate mind. Everything that I refused to let go of, he let me hold on to it until it made me sick. Until it made me sick. He gave me everything that I thought I wanted until it made me sick. And when I had that feeling, I didn't understand what was happening because I didn't understand what being turned over to a reprobate mind was. And I went down this journey of having everything I wanted to a point when it got to an end, I didn't want it anymore because it was hurting me more than it was helping me. And so what started happening is I started praying to the Lord. Lord, help change this. Lord, help me get out of this. Help. I started praying to be freed from something that I didn't know that the Lord had turned me over to. This is what's happening to a lot of people today. A lot of you are wanting to be freed from something that you asked for. It's because the Lord knows each and every one of us. He knows our name. He knows what He called us for. He knows our identity. He knows our purpose. And so, what He does is He tries to reach us at whatever level He's trying to get us, right? But it be us that be like, I ain't ready yet, Lord. I don't know. I want to hang out a little bit more. I know I want to do this a little bit more. And then when we reject Him so many times, He have us go into a situation. And in this situation, it's fun at the beginning because He gonna let us have our fun. It's fun at the beginning, but after a while, it starts to damage you. It starts to hurt you. It starts to make you feel a certain way because the very things you wanted, you thought you wanted, and the Lord was like, I was trying to get you to let it go because I knew where this was going to go. But we didn't understand where it was going because we can't see what the Lord sees. We only see what we see. And so now I'm being hurt. Now I've put myself in a situation that I want out of, but I can't come out of this situation. I'm praying to the Lord not answering me, to free me. So now I feel like the Lord is not there for me. And now I'm mad at the Lord because, Lord, where are you? I don't hear you. I need you. And I want to be free. But what the Lord is saying is, when I tried to help you, when I tried to tell you to let it go, you didn't want to let it go. I knew that this was going to eventually happen, but you wanted to keep going. You wanted to keep staying in a situation that I was trying to move you out of. Sometimes the Lord tries to free us before the damage can happen. But it's us that don't want to let go. It's us that want to continue to be hurt. It's us that don't understand what the Lord is doing. Again, why? Because we don't sit with Him long enough. So now that you're praying and you want to be released from it, the Lord is saying, nah, no, I can't release you from it. I got to let you sit in it a while. Why? Because I want you to learn the lesson. I want you to understand that when I tell you to leave, when I tell you to tell the truth, when I tell you to release that person, when I tell you to walk away, when I tell you to give it up, I want you to do what I asked you to do the first time. I don't want you to play around with me when I know what's coming. See, because things that we think are not that serious are very serious to the Lord. Why? Because again, He want to use us for a purpose. And what we're doing is standing in the way of something that needs to happen. So He's going to free you, but He's going to free you on His time. Because when He tried to free you before everything happened, you didn't want to be free. You wanted to stay in it. You wanted to complain, Lord, why I got to let it go? Why I got to do this? So now you have to sit in this thing until the Lord frees you. But a part of sitting in it means that there's a lesson that needs to be learned. What is it that the Lord was trying to show you? Was He trying to show you to be obedient because He loved you? What was it that He was trying to teach you in that? And understand, whether you're turned over to a reprobate mind or you're following what the Lord is telling you to do, there are lessons that are being learned in this process. So you being turned over to a reprobate mind is going to teach you obedience. Next time, you know not to do that. Next time, when the Lord tells you to do something, you're going to do exactly what the Lord is telling you to do instead of hesitating. Why? Because I'm not going to go through that punishment anymore. I know what it feels like to be stuck in a situation I don't want to be in because I was disobedient. So a reprobate mind is an unprincipled or a deprived person It's morally corrupt. For it saying it in the Bible, when it's in the Bible, it's an individual or individuals who are morally who individuals who are morally corrupt, who are rejected by God or beyond the hope of salvation due to their persistent sinfulness and refusal to repent. It is associated with a divine judgment, the consequences of a hardened heart due to turning away from God and his commandments. An example of that would be Moses and Pharaoh. Of all the times that the Lord kept telling Pharaoh, let my people go, Pharaoh would not listen. And every time he saw something bad begin to happen, he'd be like, okay. I'm going to let him go. I'm going to let him go. He kept making promises and he kept reneging on his promises. So he'll say, I'm going to do it. And then as soon as the Lord lift the burden, then he'll get, no, I ain't going to do it. Then the Lord have to send Moses back. He went through this on several times until the worst thing happened. He lost his son. That's when he decided to let them go. Sometimes we put ourselves in situations and we want to blame the enemy. It's not the enemy, it's the inner me. It's you that keeps putting yourself in situations that you don't have to be in. It was me that kept putting myself in situations that I did not have to be in. Sometimes separation is needed so that the Lord can deal with the people, the places, or the things that he's separating in order to sometimes bring you back in a healthier state or to separate you for good, because it's going to be destruction if you stay together. But what we think is that we know best for ourselves. We think we know best for our life. We think we know what's going on. We can see what's about to happen because I know this person and I know that person and I know how they are. But you never know a person until you hurt them. I learned that in relationship. Some of the people that I thought were the sweetest people, when you hurt them, you see a different them. And I had to learn that, to not be broken, because I was broken, even for myself. When people hurt me, they probably saw a different me. So I'm not saying that I'm not above, not changing. It happens to the best of us. But when you are sitting with God, God teaches you how to do relationship. He teaches you how to properly communicate. He teaches you how to walk away from situations. But when you're suffering from certain things, it makes you struggle to be obedient to the Lord. I struggled to be obedient to the Lord. And so because of that, he turned me over to my sin. So throughout most of my journey, I was stuck in bondage, not because the enemy put me there. I was stuck in bondage because I put myself there. I was moving faster than the Lord wanted me to move. I wanted things, see, because I'm a prophetess. So as a prophetess, I see. I before I understood that I see, I was seeing back then. So I see things, but when you see things, you want it. You want it, and you try and figure out, how am I going to work this to try to get it, because I see it. And so that's what I was doing. I was an untrained prophet that did not understand how to operate with the gift that I was gifted with. But what the Lord did, he sent me somewhere, and the lady said, the Lord is going to teach you everything you need to know. And that is what happened. He began to teach me how to operate. Did it hurt? Yes. That's something that the church don't teach you. The church will tell you how to be blessed. The church will tell you how to get a car. The church will tell you how to tithe. The church will tell you how to get a house. The church will tell you all the good things. But let me tell you, there are some other things that we need to be taught besides all of the good things. We need to be taught what conviction is. We need to be taught what being turned over to a reprobate mind is. We need to be taught that the Lord will allow you to be in a certain type of bondage when you are rebellious and don't listen. The Lord taught me those things. And so now here I am on this journey. And I'm having to fight off these things. And the whole time I'm thinking it's the devil. Oh, the devil busy, the devil this, the devil that. But along my journey, he began to show me, you did this, you did this. How do I know I did it? Because when he began to free me, he would from certain things, because he didn't free me from everything at once. He freed me piece by piece from certain things. And so what he would say is, okay, you've been freed from this abundance you put yourself in. He started letting me know all of the things that I put myself in. Why? Because if I didn't know, I might repeat the same mistake. So I need to know what I did to myself so that I don't do that very thing again. I didn't want to have to do that again. So he started showing me. So when he said intentional grounding, he was showing me why I wasn't moving. I wasn't going anywhere. I'm going to tell y'all what intentional grounding is. It's a failure to thrive. It's a failure to move forward. It's a failure to grow. It's a failure to gain yardage on the field. It's a failure to be able to keep going to make the final touchdown. Every time you try to move, something else happens. And whenever there's a penalty, in most cases, a penalty can back you up. But if we don't know what the things are that causes the penalty, how can we change it? If we're not sitting with God to understand what causes the penalty, how are you able to not make the penalty? You're going to do it every time until you learn, okay, that's something that the Lord don't want me to do. So for an intentional grounding, it's a foul football that occurs when a quarterback facing a loss of yardage due to a defensive pressure throws a pass that is not directed towards a receiver. This rule is designed to prevent a quarterback from avoiding a sack by throwing the ball away without attempting to complete the pass. Now, I told y'all, I don't know nothing about football. I don't. But this is what I learned. I remember seeing quarterbacks running with the ball. And then if they see that the other team is getting ready to come and knock them on the ground, I remember seeing them throwing the ball just in the air. Let me tell you what can happen with that. Yeah, it can hit the ground or it can be intercepted by the other team. The other team may be what's carrying the enemy. And now it's intercepted. And now you threw this ball in the open because you didn't want to get hit. And now the enemy has the ball and the enemy is going to run the ball into your end zone, which is going to cause a problem. So the Lord started dealing with me on that. The thing that stood out to me is a quarterback throwing a pass to avoid being sacked. What is sacked? To avoid being hit and taken to the ground. He didn't want to be hit by anybody, so he would rather throw it. We just talked about that. Avoiding the situation instead of dealing with it head on. So how does that play out in the spiritual journey? The player feels the pressure. The player feels chased, but it's by expectations and the enemy. The player is unsure of the next move, and the player doesn't want to get hit, so he throws the ball. He don't want to be hit. How many of us in life don't want to go through pain, so we'll rather walk away or we'll try and do something to avoid going through that pain, not understanding that pain births purpose. That pain is there for you to get through it so that you can grow and be a better person. That's what the Lord is saying was happening with this football player. Instead of being hit, I'm gonna just keep throwing the ball. I'm gonna keep avoiding the situation. I don't want to have to deal with this. So everything that's coming at this player is causing him pressure. It's causing him to think harder. It's causing him to have to really think about how he's moving. But he don't want to have to deal with that. So he keep throwing the ball away. We do that on a regular basis. I did that so many times. I walk away from a situation before I gave it another thought. I blocked somebody before I gave it another thought. I said at the beginning of my journey, when the Lord told me to unblock the people on my block list, I had so many people on my block list. It was crazy. And when he told me to unblock them people, I was questioning like, Lord, what? You know what they did to me? You know how they treated me? You know how? And he was like, unblock them. Unblock them. Because in order to be resilient, in order to be an overcomer, you have to go through something in order to come out on the other side. And I didn't want to have to go through anything. And some of us don't want to have to go through anything. So what does it look like when you keep throwing the ball? What is happening when you don't want to get sacked? Let me tell you some of the things that you're trying to avoid, right? You're trying to avoid obedience. You're trying to dodge responsibility. You're running from purpose. You're pretending you didn't hear the instructions, so I can't play the game right. Basically, you're choosing the easy way out instead of the way that God is telling you to go. Because he may be sending the people in your life that is pricking you, that's causing you to grow, but you want to stay in a familiar place. So you're going to stay where it's comfortable at and wallow in that. This is a short-term relief. Understand, when you avoid, it's a short-term relief to a long-term penalty. It's a short-term relief to a long-term penalty. It may not hurt you when you avoid it the first time, but over time, it's affecting your life. Because when you avoid one thing, every time something hard now comes your way, you're gonna want to avoid it every time. Why? Because you feel like you don't have to deal with it. So when you avoid it, what are you learning? Can you grow from that? No, it's gonna keep you stuck and stagnant. You're going to be like the copy machine that has paper stuck in every area of it, and you don't want anybody to touch you. Just let me stay stuck. Don't worry about it, because it hurt when I pull the paper out. So don't touch me. Don't touch my machine. Just let me stay stuck. Find another machine to use. That's how it is. But God don't want us to be like that. Why and what results in a penalty? You lose yardage. That's the penalty. So if I throw the ball in the open, I'm not going far because I can't go up there where the ball is because nobody called it. If it's intercepted and they run it back the other way, I lost ground. I got to back it up and go a whole nother way, and I have to fight hard to get the ball back. You lose momentum. So if I keep throwing an air ball, now I'm feeling like I can't throw for somebody to catch it. So now I just don't even want to do it all together because I keep feeling like I'm failing. You lose the willpower to understand your purpose. Purpose requires that you engage and not avoid. So now you don't want to engage because it seems like you're failing every time you engage. You lose clarity, authority, and time. You lose clarity, authority, and time. Because for every time you're backed up, for every time you run a different way, it's taking you longer to get where you're going. And every time you go backwards, the further back you go, the harder it is to see what's forward. So it requires for us to sit with God to understand which way we're going. And understand that destiny has a time. Destiny has a time. I didn't choose this life for myself. This life chose me. The Lord chose me for this life. I never thought that I would be doing ministry. I never even saw it. But when it was time for me to walk in my calling, the Lord would not let me unsee certain things. He would not let certain things leave my mind. It kept aggravating my spirit until I decided to sit and get an understanding for what was happening. So destiny has a time. There's an appointed time for everything under the heavens. Ecclesiastes 3:1. There's an appointed time for everything and every activity under the heavens. So this was my appointed time to walk in what the Lord called me to do. But if I had kept avoiding it, it would have took me longer. It would have kept backing me up. I wouldn't have been able to be where I am today, doing what I'm doing today, because I was too busy running instead of getting an understanding and settling in to learn what the Lord needed for me to learn to move forward. So what does spiritual grounding reveal about you? Because we be thinking it be revealing stuff about other people. We talking about us. What does it reveal about you? What did it reveal about me? It exposed the pressure that I was under. Because when I couldn't move, when all my money dried up, when everything dried up for me, that's what made me seek the Lord. I was under so much pressure I couldn't think right. The pressure exposes your true belief. So when I say true belief, it reveals what it is that you're leaning on. Are you leaning on God, or are you leaning on your job? Are you leaning on God, or are you leaning on your car? Are you leaning on God, or are you leaning on family members? I had to learn to lean on God. There was a time I leaned on my family. Every time something happened, I ran to my mama. I ran to my sister. If you ask me right now who I run to first, who is my first responder? My first responder is the Lord. My first responder is the Lord every single time, because I had to learn that I was codependent upon them. And so I was taught to run to my mom and run to my sister first, or run to my daddy first, or I was in a relationship at the time, run to my man first. And the Lord was like, no, I need you to come to me. That's how he began to build me up, because he took away my ability to run to those people. And the only person I could run to was him. And so he began to train me and teach me how to continue to run to him. Now, are there times I run to my mama still? Yes, because I'm still human. We have that nature that we need our mama. I want my sister. I want to talk to my best friend, whatever the case may be. We have that nature. But reality is, the Lord should always be your first responder. When I'm going through something, I'm going to sit with God. But there are times I be sitting, I be like, Lord, please let somebody call me. But sometimes I be wanting him to send me relief. But it don't always work like that. It don't. We have to find relief in the Lord. And if we're tapped in and we're listening and we're paying attention, we will see whatever sign he's sending. We will hear whatever he's saying, or whatever it is he needs for us to see. But it requires for our eyes to be open. It requires for us to be sober minded, so that we can see the things that we need to see. Understand this. Your true belief exposes your spiritual maturity. The things that we lean on will reveal what our maturity level is. If I'm leaning on a car, if I'm leaning on all these materialistic things, my maturity level ain't that big. It just isn't. When I lean on the Lord, it shows that I'm mature and know who to call on. It's like being a child and going through something, and instead of calling your mama, you want to call your little friend. I'm 10. I'm going to call my little friend, my other little 10-year-old friend, and talk to my 10-year-old friend and be like, you know what, this is what's going on, and this is how I feel, and expect for my 10-year-old friend to give me advice. And they're not spiritually inclined. That's how we do life. We run to other spiritually dead people and expect for them to show us the way when they don't know the way themselves. So the Lord put people in your path and say, this one, this another one. But here's the thing. When those people make us uncomfortable, I'm one person that will make you uncomfortable, because I can't, the way I am and the way the Lord has me, I'm a prophet of order, and I'm a prophet of truth. It's certain things I just can't sit in. It's certain things I just can't hear. And so I might come in and I might say something that makes you uncomfortable. I might say something that makes you in your stuck place, that unhinges you from that stuck place, and you begin to think, I'm that person. The Lord put me in place to poke people, to cause them to think and look around and see, dang, am I really stuck? So that you can begin to grow. And there are other people that you may have in your life that the Lord is using to do those things. It's never intended for you to stay stuck. Staying stuck is like a pig staying stuck in his sty. He is muddy, it's nasty. But because it's familiar, because the pig is used to being in a sloppy environment, They stay there. They don't want to come out. They want to roll and wallow in that. But staying in something familiar, there's no growth in that. It's dead. It's just dead because you're not growing. How do you know if you're not growing? If you're still doing the same things that you were doing 10 years ago, you're not growing. If you're still speaking the same way you were speaking 10 years ago, you're not growing. 5 years ago, you are not growing. Every year that the Lord deals with me, I grow a little bit more. The person that I am today is not the person I was last year. It's not the person I was 2 years ago. Each year brought growth to my life. Each year. If I stayed the same and continued to do the same things that I did when I was in high school, no, you're not growing. You're not growing. If you still, if you were I'm sorry, because look, the Lord said, I gotta say it. If you were a player in your 20s and you still trying to be a player in your 50s, understand you're not growing. You're not growing. There's something that is hindering you. There's some paper stuck in your machine that you need to pull out. There's some errors in your heart that you need to go back and correct. That is what helps you to grow. So it requires you to look at yourself. I had to look at me. At the beginning of this journey, I was looking at everybody else. And what I had to realize is that was a distraction. The enemy was distracting me from looking at me. Why? Because as long as my focus was on everybody else, I could not become Sharika, the prophetess. I could not become Sharika, the coach and consultant. I could not become Sharika, the boot camp instructor. I could not become Sharika, the woman of God, because I was so busy looking at everybody else that I never had time to focus on me. And understand this, the enemy will keep you so distracted that you never have time to do anything else. If you are a people pleaser, he will keep you distracted with people, always needing and wanting and to keep you going, so that you don't sit down and study or get an understanding for who he is. If you have a control issue, he'll keep putting stuff in your way that make you want to control this, control that, to keep you distracted so that you're not sitting down and taking time with the Lord. These distractions come to serve a purpose to keep you stuck. I don't care what it looks like. If God didn't tell you to do it, don't do it. And don't think that, oh, because I feel bad for this person, or because they nice people. The devil use nice people too. Because the nice people are broken people. So they have an opening where this enemy can seep into their hearts and their minds and come in and use you to do certain things for them. And it looks so innocent and so, oh, just so nice. It's a distraction. It is time for us to really sit with the Lord to get an understanding of who we are so that we can do the things that the Lord needs us to do. So let's talk about taking the hit, what taking the hit teaches us. Because remember, I said the quarterback didn't want to be hit. He didn't want to be sacked. So he kept throwing the ball away. What does taking the hit teach us? It teaches us to be versatile. It teaches us to study and prepare for the next move. Why? Because if you keep hitting me, right? If you keep knocking me down, now I'm going to go back and I'm going to go study to try and figure out how to get around you. I might go study your old games to see what it is that you always doing that you're able to make it to me quick. It teaches you to go out and study and get an understanding on how to win the game. It makes you adjust your discomfort. It keeps you going even when you want to quit. It keeps you going even when you want to quit. And it teaches you to trust God in the process because it's his process. So, what does taking the hit produce? Because every time you get hit, yeah, it's going to hurt. It hurts every time. Think about it. if I get in a fight, I might not be able to fight. If I get in a fight, I might lose the first 10 fights. But after I done got beat up 10 times, I'm going to learn how to fight. I'm not going to keep letting you beat me up. I'm not going to keep letting you bully me. I am going to learn how to beat you. I'm not going to keep letting it happen because every person gets tired of being beat. You're not going to keep putting up with it. So taking the hit produces humility. It produces humility. Taking the hit produces repentance. Because when you don't understand something or you think you had it right, it causes you to humble yourself and go back and say, you know what, I had it wrong. Now let me sit with you and get an understanding for what it is that I need to do. Taking the hit causes corrections to take place. Taking the hit causes submission. Because when you are prideful and you think you know better than a coach, you know better than the Lord, it teaches you to humble yourself and submit yourself to the Lord so that he can lead you. Taking the hit teaches accountability. It teaches you to start to look at you and what you did instead of always focusing on what somebody else did to you. It's a distraction. And taking the hit causes resilience. It produces resilience because when you get hit so many times, them hits not going to bother you. It's not going to hurt as much. You're going to be able to take them. You're going to be able to learn to block them. They're not going to be able to hit you like they used to at the beginning of the game. In football, intentional grounding keeps you from getting hit with God. It keeps you from being transformed. So when you're not moving forward, when you're stuck in a familiar thing, it keeps you from being productive for the Lord. And you think that the Lord isn't looking at those things? No. When Pharaoh kept trying to not do what the Lord told him to do, the Lord kept allowing certain things to happen. And so then when you find yourself in situations lacking in money, losing your job, losing relationships, falling out with all type of people, all of those things, constantly in arguments, people walking away from you. Y'all look at that stuff and be blaming other people. But that may be the very thing that the Lord has allowed to take place in your life to open your eyes. It's about shifting your mindset. You know everybody else's part, but what is your part? What part did you have to play in your story? Because you weren't innocent. You weren't innocent. You had a part. But it requires for you to look at your part. Because some of us think, oh, I'm nice. I'm not gonna do that. I ain't, I don't know why they did that to me. But did you put yourself in that situation for it to be done to you? And if you did, why? Why did you feel the need to put yourself in that situation to be hurt? So Romans 12:2 says, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then, oh, sorry, computer just went off. Then you'll be able to test and approve what is good, what is good. Understand, God don't want you trying to fit in. He made you special. He never made you to fit in. And so that's why it's so hard for people to accept you. They feel like you're so harsh. They feel like you always got something to say. It's those things that God wants to use. But what we do is we use them the wrong way because we haven't sat down to learn how to properly use them. I was always outspoken. I always had an opinion about everything. That's just me. I was friendly, but I always saw certain things and I always gave my advice about certain things. But it was because I didn't know who I was. And so what I was doing was using it the wrong way. And I had to sit with the Lord to understand how to properly use it. Not everything has to be said. You are a seer. Not everything you see, you speak on. See, it was things that I had to learn. So I was hurting people because I did not understand that. And so the Lord pulled the reins back and said, let me sit you down and let me teach you what it is that you need to understand. There's an ultimate goal that the Lord has for us, right? And this is the part that I loved about what he taught me this past week. So when you heard me say, I heard the Lord at the beginning of my journey saying, I'm going to teach you to be a wife outside of marriage. Yes, he's teaching me to be a wife, somebody's wife, right? Because the things that people struggle with outside of marriage, I will still have marriage struggles, but it won't be those struggles. It'll be different struggles, right? So he gave me Revelations 22:17, and it says, the spirit and the bride say, come. And let the one who hears say, come. Let the one who is thirsty come. And let the one who wishes take the water of life without cost. And then he began to talk to me what it means to become the bride of Christ. What it means to become the bride of Christ. So, in becoming a bride, that is the process to becoming somebody's wife. When you're becoming a bride, that's singular. You're a standoff person waiting to join with somebody else. But see, when I heard it, I kept hearing be somebody's wife. But I had to be the bride of Christ before I could become somebody's wife. So, in my becoming, that is where I learned how to communicate. I learned humility. I learned how to forgive. I learned to communicate. I learned what unconditional love is. I learned that just because people hurt you, it doesn't mean that it was intentional. All of us are broken one way or another. And some people don't even realize how they hurt you. I learned that we all have triggers, but we expect for people to know our triggers. They don't know what broke you in your childhood. And what you don't understand is when somebody do something to you, it triggers you in a way that you don't even understand, but you expect for other people to understand. I learned that I had to see people from their brokenness just as well as I had to see them in their whole state. Because I was faulting people for doing things to me that they didn't even know that they were doing. I was faulting people for abandoning me when they weren't really abandoning me. They were running before somebody abandoned them. It changed my outlook on everything about life, how to view people, how to operate with people. Um, I used to get mad about stupid stuff. I don't get mad about stupid stuff anymore. I used to be upset when the Lord pulled friends out of my life. Now I understand that some people are supposed to be there for a season and some people are supposed to be there for a reason. I don't take it personal. And when the Lord tells me to walk away, I understand the consequences of not walking away. Why? Because when he turned me over to my sin, he turned me over to something I wasn't ready to deal with. He turned me over to something that I did not have the capacity to carry. And what he was trying to do was pull me out to train me to carry the very thing that he was equipping me for. But because I didn't want to come out, he allowed me to stay in it to see how heavy it was. When the Lord is releasing you from a relationship, when the Lord is releasing you from a job, when the Lord is releasing you from anything, he sees far further than we do. He already know what's up ahead. He already know what's around the corner and down the street. He's trying to stop you from running into it. But it's us, the selfish group of people that think we know better than the Lord. And then we put ourselves in harm's way and then want to pray for the Lord to save us. But when he was trying to save us, when he threw the life vest and when he threw the all of the things, we didn't take it. We didn't take it. And we wonder why. Lord, how could you leave me? And then when he tell us, I never left you, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And he say, I threw out all of the different devices to stop you, to save you, to help you before you went too deep. But you pushed them all away because you thought you knew better than me. Because this is what you wanted, not understanding that I knew what it was going to do to you. It requires for us to see our part. So, becoming the bride of Christ, what does that mean? It's a covenant vow between God and his bride. Who is the bride? The people of God. A bride of Christ can be a man or a woman. It is not necessarily a woman. I thought that. But it's coming into connection or covenant. When you are a becoming a bride, you go through all of the necessary steps before a wedding and you become a wife. So the bride is the singular part of the relationship. And you're learning how to be in covenant with somebody, which is the wife, which is the joining of the bride and the groom. Now, I didn't understand that part of it. And this is me being honest with y'all. I knew about the bride of Christ. But when the Lord broke it down to me differently this time, I was like, oh, dang, that's so good. So all of this time, he showed me a promise. At the beginning of my journey, he showed me a promise. And then what he did after he showed me that promise, then I had to go through the process. So it was like a Cinderella moment. He showed Cinderella that she was going to be marry a prince. But then he sent her back to bondage until her prince found her. So she had to live out those years or however long it took until her prince found her. That's how life is for us. He shows us the promise, but if your eyes are not open to see the promise or hear the promise, or if he has not sent someone to you to prophesy and you rejected it, then you won't know. He's trying to show you what he's promising you. So that's the end goal. But he takes you back to square one and takes you through the process of becoming the wife by learning how to be the bride of Christ. Because when you're the bride of Christ, it teaches you all of the things that you need to know. The goal is to make it to the altar. The goal is to make it to the altar. So when I was on this journey, I remember one of my sisters in Christ. I was standing outside one day and she called me and she said, you need to go find an altar because you're getting ready to go through something. And I didn't know. I'm standing outside and I'm looking up at the tree and I'm like, I'm going to just stand right here. Because me here and finding the altar, that's me getting ready to pray. But there was a feeling that came over me after I hung up with her. And I remember running in the house. I felt an urgency to run in the house. And I couldn't just stop in the living room. I couldn't just stop in the room. I ran in the den and I just fell to my knees and I just began to pray. I didn't understand what it meant about truly finding an altar. Because all that I knew back then, right, was going to a church and laying out at the altar at the church. But it's like now the Lord is giving me a better understanding for this. So it's about getting to the altar, and which is overcoming all of the trials and the tribulations of becoming the bride in order to come into a covenant with the groom who is the Lord. This ultimate sign is a sign of maturity and an alignment with God's desires. So when we hit a scripture, the Lord will give you the desires of your heart. We automatically think, oh, whatever I desire, the Lord is going to give it to me. No, no, because some things that we desire are not things that we really need. The Lord desires are things that we need and not necessarily always things that we want. And so when we line up with the Lord, right, because this is what it's all about, being the bride of Christ or being a bride in general, if you think about it, it's you coming into alignment to come into connection with your husband. That means that the two of you have to become one. So when you line up with the Lord, you begin to want the things that the Lord wants. So there was a time I craved alcohol. There was a time I craved men over the Lord. There was a time I craved having the money, or I craved people seeing me a certain way. I don't crave those things anymore, because as the Lord lined me up with Him, He aligned my heart. My heart doesn't desire the same things that I used to desire now. There are certain things that the Lord will still let you desire that is a part of your promise. But even in that, there's a time that He will take that desire away, because that may be something that may hinder you. So there were certain things He took the desire away, and at the appointed time, the desire will come back when it's time for you to come into alignment with the very thing that the Lord has promised you. It requires you to get in position to leave everything you know to start a new life and a new adventure. Because when you become a wife, it speaks of the man leaving his mom or his family and coming into into alignment with his wife, and the two become one. So it means that they're starting a new life, building on their own generational stuff, teachings, or whatever it is, that the purpose that the Lord has called for their union. So it requires you to walk away. Now, when it comes to the Lord, that's the same thing that happens. The Lord does not want you to put your mama, your sister, your cousin, your brother, I don't care who it is, before Him. So when you come into a covenant with the Lord, that means you saying to the Lord, I'm going to push everything else back, and I'm going to line up with you and what you have for me, and you will show me how to do relationship with those people. A marriage ends with a union, not just a ceremony. So many people are caught up on the ceremony that you forget the important part of it, the covenant. And so because people are not sitting to learn about relationship from the man who teaches about relationship, you struggle in marriage and then you want to give up. You struggle in marriage and you don't know where to turn. For me, I'm not going in that way. I'm going in the opposite way that most people went in. I'm going in understanding that when I come into a covenant with my husband, that the Lord is my first responder. That if there's anything going on in my marriage, I need to seek the Lord, and that I need to make sure that He is a part of my union with my husband. That's where it's different. And so we wonder why we struggle in relationships. It's because you aren't sitting to understand the importance of the relationship. If you never learn the components of something, you never know how to properly operate the thing that you're trying to operate. So if you never understand the components of a marriage, you'll never be able to operate it correctly. And a part of the components is that there are three strands: you, your husband or wife, and the Lord. Not you, your husband and wife, and the Lord and your cousin. Not you, your husband, wife, the Lord, and your mama. Not you, your husband, wife, your mama, your cousin, your sister. You, the Lord, and your wife or your husband. Whenever there are things that goes on in a relationship, three is a crowd and will cause confusion if it is not godly counsel. Because godly counsel is not going to give you foolishness. It's going to tell you how to seek the Lord to find out how to fix your marriage or your relationship, whether it be with your mom or your cousin, whoever it is that you're in relationship, your husband, your wife, whatever. Bringing in too many people becomes a crowd and it causes confusion. So understand, a marriage ends in a union. It's not just about the ceremony. The ceremony is just the icing on the cake. So when the Lord dealt with me about becoming the bride of Christ, I wrote out this vow to the Lord. And if you're in this situation, take the time. If you're in the place that I'm in, you may be getting there, or you may be there, you may be past me. But where I am is, I am vowing to come into connection with the Lord and to be the bride of Christ, to be what he needs me to be, to desire what he desires and reject what he rejects. So I wrote this thing out. I take you as my Lord, my King, my bridegroom. I give you my loyalty, my devotion, my obedience. I forsake all other gods, idols, and lovers of my soul. And I cling to you alone. I surrender my will for your will and your plans for my life. I follow and surrender to the purpose you have for my life. I pledge to walk in your way and keep your covenant and honor your commands. I embrace your covering, your name, and I align myself with your mission on this earth and in my life. I receive your spirit, your leadership, and your love. I am yours, and you are mine from this day forward and for eternity. When you find out what the ultimate goal is, that is when you hit a touchdown. That is when you really win the game. But it requires you to get an understanding. Now, before this live ends, I'm going to briefly tell you how I saw this. He took me back to the movie Naked. And in that movie, that was the movie with Marlon Wayans. And he was showing me how the significance of that movie and him being naked, right? When a person becomes prideful, the Lord strips you of everything. That was what was happening with Marlon Wayans in that movie. He was being stripped of everything. And he kept trying to get up and he kept trying to keep going as the person that he wanted to be. But every time he tried to do it, he kept doing it wrong and he found himself back on the elevator, naked again. It was because he wasn't doing it right. Even in that movie, if you've never watched the movie, you go watch it and you'll see, I think it's on Netflix. You'll see that there were times he'll wake up and he'll try and call people. He tried to call his mom, he tried to call his friend, he tried to call his wife's friend, he tried to call all these people to get advice. But the Lord shut it all down. He kept ending up naked back on the elevator. And the reason that he kept ending up naked is because he kept trying to do it in his own strength. The pride and the arrogance kept setting in. So the Lord kept stripping him and making him do it again. When he realized that nobody could help him, that he had to sit and understand what broke him, then he started to gain yardage. Like this movie, he started to gain yardage. He started to see, okay, now I'm starting to move, because he kept trying to do things the easy way. He kept trying to do things his way, but his way was not working. His way was not working. And so it kept him in a cycle, back to the elevator, back to the bottom floor, because that's what the elevator was. It was on the bottom floor, back to the elevator every single time, stripped of everything, until he started to not lean on himself, not lean on others, but lean on the Lord and really sit to see his issue. When he started out in that movie, he was selfish. He wouldn't take the job because he felt like he needed. It didn't matter that I was getting married. I don't want that job. I keep thinking about me. She wanted kids. He didn't want the kids. He was forgetting stuff. He was forgetting the program. He didn't have a ring. He was very immature. But by the time he finished going on that cycle and he kept finding himself naked, he learned from that and he was able to move forward and be who God called him to be, the groom for his wife. So understand, if you find yourself going through cycles over and over and over again, it's a reason for that. It's a reason for that. Sit down and try to figure out what the Lord is trying to show you about you. What's your part? What's not working in you? What's jammed that needs to be pulled out? What part of you needs to be rebooted? So this ends my live. I pray that this word helps you. This is the end of my Equipped for the Call series. I don't know what the Lord is going to have me do next, but I'm trusting God in whatever he has me to do. And I'm going to be obedient in that. I pray that this word helps somebody um, to see themselves, because this word was not about anybody in particular. It was about you. It was about you recognizing what's hindering you, what's stopping you from moving forward, what's keeping you in a cycle of doing the same things over and over again. So I want to end this live on a prayer. So Father God, I come to you right now, Lord, asking you to touch the hearts of the people that come to this live, Lord. If there's anybody that is stuck and not gaining yardage, Lord, help them to see the error in their ways so that they're able to move forward, Lord. Take their focus off of others um, so that they're able to see them, so that they're able to grow and get the help they need from you and the guidance they need from you to transform, to get in a better place in their life, to not conform to the things that they're used to conforming to. Help them to become the men and women of God that they are called to be in this season. Help them to see the error of their ways. Lord, I ask all of these things in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. I will see y'all whenever he sends me back, because I don't know when I'm coming back. So I'll see y'all on the next live. Don't forget, I have a YouTube channel. I almost feel like I'm not coming back here to do another live on Facebook. I keep feeling like the Lord is moving me over to YouTube for good. So follow me, Divinely Transformed, on YouTube. If you are struggling with understanding God, relationships, whatever it is, join the boot camp. The boot camp helps. Ask my students. I have students now that are going through a lot, and I love for them to come on and tell me how the boot camp has helped them to grow. So, if you're having any issues, Divinely Transformed Boot Camp is here. You can reach out to me by messaging me or emailing me at divinelytransformed.com. I mean, at gmail.com, and let me know that you want to be a part of it. Now, my class has already started, so you will have to wait for the next class to start because I don't want to interrupt the class that I already have going on. But again, if you want to join, let me know, and I will get you set up for the next class. I'll see y'all on the next live. Bye.